Hello and welcome to the Warframe tier list. Today we will be going over Mirage. First things first, let's go into the build. This build will be opting for a 4 nuke build. A lot of people have the misconception that this ability cannot kill enemies in the steel path, but that cannot be further from the truth. This ability does a lot of damage, it scales up really well, though it is a bit tile set dependent in the sense that you need to be in light to do the maximum damage, and the more enemies you hit, the more damage it deals. So it is very good in the steel path depending on the tile and depending on how you play. As for survivability, we will be opting for silence and using a shield gate build with brief respite and being able to cast her 3 or her 1 to reset our shield gate. This build in particular opts for 3 auger mods and base efficiency and 2 more auger mods on our secondary weapon to get our shield back. We opt for Arcane Energize because this is the only way to sustain the build, and Molt Augmented for some extra strength to scale later into the mission. There is a second build that is the same exact concept. You will still use Silence over the 2, don't get fooled by the quiver. This build opts for less efficiency and using Equilibrium to sustain, less range, which doesn't really matter all too much, slightly more strength. But the biggest thing that this build has going for it is that it can slot natural talent. Natural talent matters a lot because how you die on this build is you start casting your 4 and it has about a 13.5 year cast time. So before it finishes casting, they break your shield gate and then kill you before you're allowed to play the game. This doesn't happen that often as long as you play well. And make sure that you only cast your 4 whenever you're safe, whenever you're aim gliding through the air, or when you are invulnerable from rolling guard. So use whichever build you prefer. Obviously, if you have Prime Sure-Footed, run that instead. If you do not have Prime Sure-Footed, just run handspring. It works just, well, not just as well, I'm not going to lie, but it will work. It will get you through the content. As for our loadout, we are using the Cedo. The reason we are using the Cedo is because, well, it is very strong. But, and particularly on Mirage, it is absolutely insane. So, the Cedo's alt fire is an insane status primer, and it will throw out 5 glaives when your 1 is up with Mirage. So, using Mirage's 1 in conjunction with the Cedo's alt fire, you will apply a lot of status effects and also nuke the map. It won't kill the enemies outright most of the time, but it will do a lot of damage. This, in conjunction with the 4, it is absolutely busted. It kills enemies so quickly, it's not even funny. This was the build that I opted for. This isn't really for damage, this is more just for status priming. As for our melee weapon, we go for the glaive. The reason we use the glaive is because, well, the glaive kills stuff. Our secondary, we are using the Latum. The reason we're using the Latum is because we need a high damage single target weapon to help us kill the Acolytes. That's pretty much its only use, and we don't really need to use it all too much in the actual mission. We are using secondary and primary dexterity because we just want to keep the stacks up at all times. The extra reload speed on the primary and secondary would help a little bit, but honestly, it's better to just always have the stacks up, and it's very easy to get the stacks, and they last a long time with dexterity with the glaive. Again, we are using Miiirraaaaage, and the reason we're using Miiirraaaaage is because of the 50% casting speed for the same reasons that I said earlier. This build is not that good without Miiirraaaaage with the casting speed. As for your cat, you are running a standard Panzer loadout with the synth mods equipped. Moving on to the ranking part of the video, we will be judging Mirage based on 4 different categories. First, her kills per minute in a solo survival. Secondly, her survivability in said solo survival. Thirdly, her viability / flexibility in different mission types. And lastly, on her fun aspect. So all of these tests are done in a Steel Path Mott mission because that is the hardest survival mission in the game, as in Mott the enemies do 4 times more damage than in other missions. So, beginning with her kills, Mirage kills enemies very well. There's honestly not too much more to say here. Her playstyle pretty much demands it. You kill enemies extremely quickly with the 4, with the Cedo, and then anything that's too tanky to die to that, you just shoot them in the face, and then you still have enough strength for your 1 and 3 to significantly buff your guns, so you make short work of any tanky bombard or heavy gunner or Eximus, even if you're using weapons that are designed just to apply status effects for your 4. So her kills are very good. Again, not really much more to say here. Like, I think in this mission I got like 7.3k kills in 60 minutes. It was like 120 some kills per minute in a 1-hour mot run solo with no specters, no on-call. That's honestly really good ever since the Xmas changes. So overall, I'm going to have to give her kills at the very least an S-. Now moving on to her survivability, which is also tied into her kills. Mirage is a very squishy Warframe, but she makes up for it by pretty much killing anything that happens to be around her. That's her entire playstyle with this build. You have to be non-stop moving because you want to be walking into the enemies as you're applying the silence, and then killing them while they're still CC'd from the silence. If you aren't killing enemies quick enough as Mirage, you're going to struggle. You're going to be sat there spamming your 3 trying to shield gate, and you're just going to run out of energy. You're not going to be killing anything, and you're just going to die. But fortunately, she's, like I said earlier, she is extremely efficient at making short work of the enemies. So you have to be constantly moving and constantly killing the enemies and making use of your low range silence to constantly CC the enemies. And if done properly, she actually has good survivability for a fairly long time. However, there is the one glaring issue that I can't just simply look over with her survivability, which is the fact that sometimes you'll press her 4 and you will just die, even if you've done everything properly. This is because her forecast time just takes so long that if they happen to shoot you and break your shield gate right as you cast it, you will just be sitting in the 4 animation, not able to play the game, and you will die. This is remedied a bit with Archon shards, but I feel like saying that the frame survivability will increase with Archon shards is a little cursed and not exactly fair to say. So do keep that in mind, and for that reason I will have to lower her survivability rank from like an A- that I probably would have given her to about a B, because again, her survivability honestly isn't bad, but you will just randomly die casting her 4, which is very sad. On to the third point of contention, Mirage's overall versatility. Again, Mirage falls off a bit here. As I said earlier, her damage from her 4 depends greatly on 3 main factors. The tileset's lighting, the tileset's layout. If there's a lot of line of sight everywhere blocking your vision, her 4 just isn't that great, so certain tilesets just do not work that well for her. In particular, one that comes to mind is Eris's tileset. The Infested Ship tileset can be a bit of a struggle on anything other than Exterminate there, and even then Exterminate sometimes a bit rough. And your ability to move. So game modes where you have to stand still typically aren't that good, and even more so, there's the obvious defense missions where not only are you forced into a small area, but there's also always a bunch of just random stuff everywhere blocking your line of sight, again nerfing her. So Mirage overall does very well in most exterminates, most survivals, most rescues, and most sabotages. Again, it depends on the tile set, but most of them are fine, and she will do very well in. She will make short work of them. She can just run through kind of like a Wukong. But she struggles greatly in excavation missions and most of the defense maps. She's also not good, but not bad at Liches, Sisters, Disruption, Interception, Mobile Defenses, and Bounties. Mostly because first of all, Liches and Sisters, it's every single game mode, and she's good in more game modes than she's bad at. So she's not a bad option for doing Liches and Sisters. Also, her 1 and 3 give you a nice little damage buff to help you kill them if you're struggling in the damage department. Disruption, same deal. The only problem with Disruption with her is, as I said earlier, under Survivability, her main source of survivability comes through killing all of the ads that are trying to kill her, and in a Disruption, that's not always your main priority, so she can become hard to stay alive on in Disruption. But again, she's not the worst. She's not exactly the best either for it. Interception, it's kind of like a toss-up. It really depends on the tile set here, but she's okay at them for the most part. And same thing with mobile defenses. Some of the mobile defenses, such as the mobile defense on Earth, they're always in wide open spots, so she's fine. And then others, they're in like a tight little corner, so it could be a little rough. And then bounties, they're always wide open, so she's okay there, but sometimes they're too wide open, so the enemies are just sniping her from out of her range, and it can be a little rough. But overall in bounty, she's not bad. So at the end of the day, for her overall versatility, she is good in more missions than she's bad in, and where she's good, she's very good. So I will have to give her versatility a B+. Alright, now on to the final category, Mirage's fun aspect. Of course, this is the most subjective category, but I will be short with this. I believe Mirage is one of the most fun Warframes in the entire game. I think she is easily top 3 most fun Warframes in the game. S+, right off the bat. My reasoning is there's just something about playing a super aggressive Warframe who just has to play a very active playstyle to stay alive, and you're just nuking your entire map. You're just shooting 5 explosive Cedo-glaives at once, priming everything, damage numbers everywhere. You have a literal disco ball of death following you, just nuking everything that your Cedo primed. Even the things that your Cedo didn't prime is still just getting absolutely nuked. It's extremely fun. I love casters, and I also like guns, and this is the perfect combination of the two. You are a caster frame, but you have enough time to run around and shoot your guns in between, because your 4 has such a long cast time, and it persists for 7 to 8 seconds, that you have those 7 to 8 seconds to run around, use Warframe's movement system, which a lot of people claim that the movement system in Warframe is the only reason they play. So you really get to utilize every aspect of the game when you're playing Mirage. You're running around shooting your guns. In fact, you're shooting 5 of your guns. You're a caster frame that's using a huge AoE nuke. And you get to utilize Warframe's movement system to the fullest, because if you stop moving, you die. So I believe that this is why Mirage deserves the easy S+ rank in the fun category. Now, this puts her at an S- for kills, a B for overall survivability, a B+ for her overall versatility, and an S+ for fun, bringing her average rank to an A- Warframe.